Good morning. Welcome back to These Things Are Written. It is Friday already. Where did the week go? We are wrapping up this week with Acts chapter 17, continuing with Acts chapter 17, beginning with verse 16. Remember, Paul and Silas are on their missionary journey. They've been to Philippi, they have been to Thessalonica and Berea, and Paul was driven out, and he ended up being in Athens and waiting there for Timothy and Silas and the rest of his group. Let's continue with verse 16. Now, while Paul was waiting for them at Athens, his spirit was provoked within him, as he saw the city was full of idols. So he reasoned in the synagogues with the Jews and the devout persons, and in the marketplace every day with those who happened to be there. Some of the Epicurean and Stoic philosophers who also conversed with him. And some said, "What does this babbler wish to say?" Others said, "He seems to be a preacher of a foreign divinities," because he was preaching Jesus and the resurrection. And they took him and brought him to the Areopagus, saying, "May we know what this new teaching is that you are presenting? For you bring some strange things to our ears. We wish to know, therefore, what these things mean." Now all the Athenians and the foreigners who lived there would spend their time in nothing except telling or hearing something new. This is the word of the Lord. Athens is the center of the Greek history, the center of Greek art and literature and architecture and philosophy and of the Greek mythology. All of that. It is a key and very important city in ancient Greece. And Paul finds himself there, and his spirit is troubled within him, provoked within him, it says, because he sees all the idols. He sees the godlessness of the area. It mentions Epicureans and Stoics who were there conversing with him. When we read these, we might not really know what they are. They are two sort of brands or schools of philosophy at that time. The Epicureans are really atheistic. They don't believe in the afterlife or any God, simply that when we die, we die. They have no higher moral aim or goal. And really their focus is on gratification, on pleasure. Eat, drink, and be merry might be their words that they would speak as they focus on those things that are important to them: pleasure, joy, happiness, gratification of the body and of all things. Stoics were very different from the Epicureans. In fact, you could say that they are almost opposite. Well, the Epicureans were about pleasing themselves. The Stoics, as the word says, were very stoic, not very emotional, not about pleasure. They were more about reason, about understanding things through the lens of reason. Reason overrode everything in their world. They had high morals, but high morals that were based upon reason and not upon any divine teaching, as in the Christianity. They might put up with gods, but in many ways, the reason was their God. And God was a God of reason that gave them their abilities and their reason and their logic. So two very different philosophies, but both really opposed to Christianity, especially early Christianity, and what Paul was preaching. Because if you hear what Paul is preaching, he's preaching about Jesus Christ, about a new deity, so to speak, true man, true God, one who had been raised from the dead. Now, they believe that when they died, the Epicureans, that there was no longer existence of their soul or their body. And so the resurrection wasn't right to them. And to the Stoics, reason covered that, and reason did away with the resurrection. So what Paul was teaching was very opposed to the Stoics and the Epicureans. Some wanted him and brought him to the Areopagus. This was the location of the upper council of Athens, the high up ruling party, the august group of people. And it was also a location where debates and discussions would be done. And if you notice in verse 19 how that door was open for Paul, They took him and brought him to the Areopagus, saying, "May we know what this new teaching is that you are presenting?" They are asking him to present what he was saying in front of them, in front of other philosophers, in front of those who did not believe. There's a great opportunity for Paul. We'll read more about that next week. But remember, this something new that they wanted was not something new. It was something that was there from the beginning, God's plan of salvation through Jesus Christ that he put into effect even with the creation of the world, the perfect world, and how he's focusing on this new creation that will be even better. Now, as we look at this passage, one thing I want to focus on a little bit more is the similarities of the Epicureans and the Stoics to the world today. There are many in the world whose pleasure is their God. They're all about pleasing themselves and not worried about the world around them. And morally, they are often have no or little morals to their lives. We also have those Stoics, the scientific type people, those who are worshiping reason and science as their God, so to speak. And we, in many ways, have the same opportunity that Paul has to bring the gospel to them. So how do we do that? To those who are all about pleasure or those who are all about reason, how do we bring them into the faith? Just like Paul did. You tell them about Jesus, true man, true God, who came to this earth, who lived and who died and who was raised again, all for our sins and to give us that promise of everlasting life. No, they will not believe it. It goes against their philosophies, but to be honest, we need to address their empty philosophies head on and bring them to understand that those philosophies are wrong and the truth lies in Jesus Christ. Let the Spirit do its work. Let the Spirit lead them to reject their ways of thinking, their empty philosophies, and to turn to Jesus Christ. May God guide us in the words that we speak, and may they be full of his wisdom and his grace. Go in peace, serve the Lord, and we will see you again on Monday.